Hello, gorgeouses. Happy Wednesday. Good morning. How are you feeling? Okay, so today we are doing a little throwback story. I've had quite a few people who are in this exact situation come into my world. And so I thought, let's rehash the story of how I manifested a paid exit to my corporate job, not once, but twice. Let's dive into it. How are you feeling today? Good morning. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Big vibes happening, right? Big energy going on. We're feeling it all. And the main energy, you guys tell me, but the main energy that I've been feeling currently is like precipice, rev up, something big is coming, something big is happening, like that rolling wave that just gets bigger. Like it feels like there's a buildup of energy right now. So that's what I've been feeling. But whatever you're feeling, just know that where we are right now is always the present moment towards whatever future we want to create. And that is entirely up to us. Okay, so today we're talking about how I manifested a paid exit to my corporate job twice. This is quite the story. If you've been in my world for a long time, you've heard this story, maybe not to the full depth of detail that I'm going to go into today. But I'm going to present this to you and I'm going to offer you the process and the mindset that I had for you to apply it to whatever is going on in your life. So maybe you love your job, or maybe you're not even in a job, like it's not a problem for you at all. This process of what I did will help you in terms of manifesting anything. So let's dive into it. So, a little bit of context back in 2013, I had just moved to the city I live in now, and I moved here for a job. It was my dream job. It was like, oh, holy everything. I cannot believe this happened. I was crying when I got the job, like, because I had been in such a place before where it was like I couldn't find a job. This was back in, you guys remember, like, what was it, like 2011, 2012? It was like markets crashing, there's no jobs, like blah, blah, all this stuff, right? So I got this job in 2013. The lady on the phone, human resources or whatever, said to me, like, can you move here in 2 weeks? And I was like, yes. Like, didn't even think about it. I was like, yes, 100% I can move there in 2 weeks. So move, start the job. I'm giddy, like, oh my God, it's my dream. It's happening, blah, 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 all this stuff, right? Now, the way that I got that job is actually a story in itself, but we're not here for that today. So I start this job and I'm so excited to be there. I'm walking through the halls just like grinning ear to ear because like I did it, right? Like I landed my dream job. Well, within a few weeks, I noticed that everyone else that worked there was not walking through the halls smiling ear to ear. They were not giddy and happy to be there. And I started wondering, like, what is going on here? Like, what is happening that everyone looks like they're like walking through a prison cell? And, a few more weeks in, started to really understand why. First and foremost, we're working in gray cubicles with fluorescent lighting, which I'm going to tell you right now, no living being thrives in. Okay. Nobody's thriving in gray cubicles and awful lighting. But after a while, what I came to see from everyone around me was that, one, the job itself didn't have a great culture, meaning like there was a lot of work martyrdom. It's a hard word. Work martyrdom. And also, this was my first exposure to corporate world. It was my first time, in an environment where people are working at the like norm society, like kind of thing, right? And my whole life, I had been working towards having this particular job. And so I thought it was going to be like shiny and beautiful and fun and like, oh my God, we did it. Like the idea of like the pinnacle where you check the box of you got the dream job. And what I quickly found out was it was absolutely miserable. There was no real excitement happening there. Any kind of excitement that you felt had to be like personally built up within you. There was not this excitement and beauty and fun that was happening in this work environment. And I started looking around and I was seeing people who had been there for 50 years, not making much more than I was making. And it was starting to really hit me like, oh, holy shit. Like, my dream job is not a dream. Like, this is not a dream at all. And that was a really hard moment. It was a hard moment because when you're working towards something, when you're at the bottom and you're working your way up, you know which way to go, right? There's potential, there's hope. It's like, let's freaking go. But when you reach the pinnacle and it's a high disappointment, that is a real scary place to be. I tell you, like, we don't really talk about this as much as we talk about being at like rock bottom. But when you get everything you've ever asked for, everything you've ever wanted and worked for, and it's a disappointment, there is this moment of like, what do I do now? And so I went into this very like sad, depressive state because it was like, I don't know what to do. Everything I've done has been about this. And now I'm here and it is not what I thought it was going to be. So there was a season, and I've talked about this before with you guys. There was a season where like I was just coming home miserable every day. First and foremost, I am not someone who can just sit at a desk all day. Like I have so much energy in my body and like the thought of I have to stay in here in these walls from 9 to 5 was like or 8 to 5 really was like, what do you mean I can't leave? Like what do you mean I can't go do something else? It was completely contradictory to my personal state of being. And so there was a season of my life where I was just frustrated, sad. I have vivid memories of coming home every day and just falling on the floor and just crying because I didn't know what to do. I was in this space where it was just like I had checked the boxes, I had reached the pinnacle, I was at the top of the mountain, and I wasn't happy. So now what? And this was a very pivotal moment. And I think we can all kind of relate to this in some way. Maybe it was something, maybe it's not your career for you. Maybe it was, chasing after marriage, or you've always wanted kids, or going after some achievement and you reach that pinnacle. And then it's like, shit, now what? Right. So after going through a season of being absolutely miserable, this was when my initiation into actually applying this personal development inner work started. So I've always had the spirituality in my life. I've always had like the spiritual world, the energy, all of that. My mom has always been a big part of that for me. And so that had always been there. I knew I wasn't alone in this life journey, but I had not yet taken personal responsibility for myself. You know what I mean? Like I had not yet really like took a stand to say it's actually about who I become and it's actually about what I want in this world. And so what happened was I started listening to more personal development stuff. And I had this very deep intuitive knowing that if I just work on me, everything has to get better. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't understand everything that I understand now at the time, but it was just this deep intuitive knowing, like, if I improve me, like, if I get better personally, not if I like achieve more at work, not if I'm a star player and everyone loves me, like, personally for me, if I get better, everything has to improve, right? Like, it has to. So I went on this very deep dive journey of just building myself from the inside out. And so I always kind of lovingly say this, like you have to get to this point where you're in like plug the little one's ears right now. You have to get to fuck it. Like you have to get to this point in your life where you're like, you know what? Fuck it. Fuck it. And you stop concerning yourself so much with what the outside world thinks. You stop caring about checking the boxes. You stop worrying about doing it the right way, and you start prioritizing yourself. So this was a huge pivotal moment for me because it was like, you know what? Like I'm going to start making me first for maybe the first time ever in my life. And not in this weird selfish way, like in this way of like, what do I actually want? What am I actually feeling in my body? What is saying to me that I have to do it like this? Can I do something else? I felt this really deep call in my body. And I think a lot of you can relate to this, that I was meant to do something more, but I didn't know what that was at the time. You know what I mean? Like I had not built myself into the level where I could understand what the next chapter was going to be. I was just in this space where it was like, okay, this is where I'm at. I am now going to flip it where I'm not going to prioritize what I'm supposed to do anymore. And I'm going to start prioritizing myself. I'm going to start tuning in and tapping into me. What do I want? And who do I want to be in that process? And so I started really deep diving into my own internal world. I started learning and listening to anything I could get my hands on that felt good to my body. And in that process, it led me from here to there, from here to there. And I hired my very first life coach in 2015. It was 2014 or 2015. And she was incredible, like absolutely incredible. It was the biggest investment I'd ever made in my life. It was like $5,000. And I was like, am I really about to do this? But as I was talking to the guy on the phone, I was literally crying. I was crying. And he was saying to me, he's like, Marley, like, I know it might be a lot, but I feel like you need this. And I was like, I know I need it. You know what I mean? And I had just paid off the entire balance on my credit card. And I was like, am I really about to put 5,000 more dollars on my credit card? And so I had this moment, and it was this coming to Jesus moment with myself where I said, here's your options. Like talking to myself, like, here's your options, Marley. You can either say no to this and continue on trying to figure it out, or you can make a really big freaking move that you know is going to change your trajectory. And so I just said yes right then and there. And I was like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's go. Best decision I ever made of my life. And I'm saying that because I made that decision not thinking this person's gonna fix my life. You know what I mean? I made that decision from this place of I am gonna do something that changes my trajectory. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's gonna look like, but I'm doing something big. And whenever you make a big move like that from an energy that says, I'm doing this to change what is going on in my life, to change my trajectory, everything in the universe and it can't help but change. Like it has to change because of your intention and energy behind that action. And so I made this huge decision. My coach was incredible. She was a world record holder for the longest amount of time of running on a treadmill. She was an athlete, but she held the world record. I think it's something like 12 hours of running or something like that. It was like insane. But she was definitely a high achiever. She was so compassionate, so wonderful. Anyway, so what happened was in talking with her, one, she wouldn't let me complain. Okay, I'm going to say this right now. Every time I tried to complain to her about my job, she would interrupt me over and over and over. And I remember getting so frustrated because all I wanted to do was just whine and bitch about my job. And she would interrupt me. And later I found out this was actually a tactic that company used to interrupt your patterns. You know, you've got a pattern of complaining, you got to stop that. So it's like scratching the record. Every time you get interrupted when you're complaining, it makes your ego mad, but it's interrupting that pattern, it's scratching that record so that you will get out of that constant cycle. So here's what I did. With her, I did not try to plan an exit to my job. I didn't have access to that. I didn't have like, how am I going to quit this job? What I did instead was, what can I start doing to make my experience of this job more in alignment with what I want. And so what I started doing was joining these little things. Like the company had these little not clubs, but you know what I mean, like kind of like clubs, organizations or whatever. So I joined the wellness committee. That's what it was, wellness committee, because I've always been like big about working out and physical health and all of that. And so I joined this, became the head of that. Next thing I know, I'm in meetings with our VP of HR planning the new gym that's going to get built there. And my every day was starting to now have some invigoration to it. Now it was like, oh, this is fun. I still had the same job. It still was the gray cubicle, but I internally was feeling better because I was working on my inner state. I was taking all my power back. I had hit that fuck it mode where I was like, I'm not worried about what these people think anymore. I'm not even trying to impress my boss anymore. Like, I do not care, you know? And I started to add in things to my day that I liked doing. Okay, so here's what's happening energetically. So now, we can pop out of the story for a moment and I can explain to you what was happening energetically and why this was working so well. First and foremost, I stopped blaming. Okay, so write these things down if you want to like a step by step manual. First and foremost, I stopped blaming. In that, I took all my power back. And this is just, it is such an underrated, not spoken about enough thing. When you stop blaming the outside world for your life and you come into full acceptance and ownership over your decisions that led you here, and you stop being mad at the world for not being everything you want it to be, you take all of your power back and you say, okay, what am I going to do though? Because this is my personal experience of life. I am not here to change and shift and rearrange the entire world. That's not my responsibility. I'm not going to be able to change this entire company to be a better work environment. I'm not going to be able to change these people's minds to do things differently. That's not my job. But what I do have power over is myself. So, what can I do in my own experience that makes this better? So I stopped blaming. I started looking for opportunity to make my day more enjoyable. Just what's here for me. And this is a really cool thing because what I know now about manifestation and about creating your life is that there is always a pathway. There's always a pathway, but we have to be willing to look for it. And when we're in blame mode and when we're complaining, it's like the pathway can be right in front of you, but you're turned in this direction. You won't even see it. So once I stopped blaming and complaining and I started looking for how do I make my day better, it was like I was coming onto the pathway. It was like, oh, I can do this and I can do that. This is that whole ask and it is given thing. The moment that you ask for a better way, you are given the better way, but you've got to be open to seeing it, right? So if I had been stuck on how do I get out of this job though? How do I get out of this job though? How do I get out of this job though? I wouldn't have been able to see the pathway of least resistance. So I saw the pathway of least resistance by what can I do on a day to day basis that makes this job more me, makes it something I want to be doing? So I joined these committees. Next thing I know, I'm in the HR VP's office helping her plan a whole gym for the company, which was so fun. And because I was such a gym rat already, I had connections at the gym that I was in for people that could come and provide the equipment. And so I felt like this whole, like business liaison. And I was like, look at me, doing all this stuff. And my day was just so much more fun. Since my day was more fun, you know where I'm going with this. My internal vibration was raising. I wasn't feeling that somber, like my life is awful, everything is terrible thing anymore because now I was moving towards adding energy in that I wanted to be experiencing. And this is a huge, huge lesson in all of this. Never look at what do I need to get rid of in order to be happy. Okay. Now, I mean, time and a place, right? Like if you need to like cut out a bad relationship, you need to cut out a bad relationship. But what I'm saying is happiness typically always is going to come from what do you need to add in? Where's the fun that you're missing? Where's the joy that you're missing? Where can you add some joy, some fun, some good things in that start to raise your vibration? Because that stuff adds up. Okay. So I was doing this. Well, a few months go by, I get promoted. I got the whole time that I was there, I got promoted 3 times. And I was just like, okay, you know, okay. And then I got promoted for the third time, and I got promoted into a position that I really wanted. And this is a really cool part too, because I have helped several, I don't know how many, I couldn't count it, but I've helped several clients along the years to get to this place where they have the option. They have the option to leave their job. And by the time that they're at the place where they're stable and they can leave their job, they're like, I don't know, Marley. Like, I kind of like my job now. And I'm like, that's how it works, though. That's how it works. When you work on you and you build yourself up, you focus on you. By the time that you get to that point where you could leave the job, you're happy with all of it. And so that's how it's supposed to be, though. It's like, so just choose. There is no one way. I just say there's not one way. There is an infinite number of ways to do your life. And it's not about like, am I picking the right one that's going to be the thing? Like, take that pressure off of yourself. You know what I mean? It is truly about like your internal state being at a high vibration that's loving yourself and loving your life. And then you just choose where you want to go. So I've had so many clients be like, well, I don't know, I kind of like my job now. I think I'm going to stay. And it's like, great, amazing. Because it was never about the job, it was about your happiness, right? So I get the promotion. Well, within the year of getting the promotion, I am at this point happy. Like, I'm happy. I feel like I'm killing it at my job. I'm looking forward to going to work every day rather than like, a ball of like muck and a puddle on the floor. Like, I'm doing good. I'm feeling like I'm that girl, like killing it, all these things, right? Well, then the company suddenly gets bought out by a investment something or another, right? Company gets bought out. Well, everyone's freaking out because everyone's like, I don't want to lose my job. And I'm sitting there like, you're telling me that I might lose my job? I'm like, you're telling me that I might be leaving? I'm excited about it. Now, I am different. I'm different than a lot of people. Like, I get excited. If someone gets fired, I have always been a huge advocate of you got fired because you were meant to leave that job, but you weren't willing to do it yourself. Like it's a little universal push. Like you got to go. You're done here. And so I've always seen these things as a good thing. When change happens and it's entirely out of your control, that's destiny. There's nothing you can do about that. That was meant to happen. And I have a really solid foundational belief system that says, like, everything that happens is happening for you in some way. And so if something happens where you lose your job, it's because there's another door open for you ready. And I've always believed that and I've always thought that way. I've never been freaked out about jobs. Like I've been fired and I was sad, but I was like, okay, what's next? Anyway, so the company gets bought up. Within the year, everyone's freaking out. There are a lot of people getting straight up laid off. Like there's a lot of people that are just losing their jobs because they're like cutting the company down. Well, by the time that they get to our department, the department that I worked in, they pull us all into a meeting room and they say, for our department only. Well, I say only, but there might have been another one that they did this with. For our department, they will be taking volunteers volunteers to leave the company, and they will pay you double severance. And I was like, what? What? And I was marveling. Okay, so let's recap because what happened here? One, I stopped complaining and I started taking ownership over me. Two, I stopped trying to impress the world and I started prioritizing myself. Three, I started doing things that I wanted to be doing, adding joy in, adding love into the day. What do I want? What can I do? What's within my control? And then that landed me on a job or getting promoted to a job that I really liked and I wanted to be doing. So I'm sitting pretty, right? Finally, I think I was finally getting paid more than 50 grand. I was like, yay. And then lo and behold, the universe on a silver platter was like, here you go. You want to leave? We'll give you money to leave. And I just sat there like in total awe because this is the stuff that we can't plan. We sit here and we try to control the hell out of our lives. You can't control any of it. All you can control is yourself, but it's enough. And when you control yourself enough and raise your vibration, you're going to meet the perfect pathway that the universe has lined up for you to allow what you want better than you ever could have planned it, easier than you ever could have planned it. And I think that this is a huge thing to take in. A lot of times, I think we think that if I don't make it happen, the universe doesn't have me. And that thinking in itself is keeping you out of the best case scenario. Like you've got to be in the best case scenario. You got to raise that vibration and then let the universe take care of the rest, right? Okay. So silver platter. Here you are, Marli. We will pay you to leave. And I'm sitting there like eyes wide, like, holy shit, this just happened. Oh my God. Okay. But I'm human. All right. So they give us the next week. It's like this was like a Friday and you had to let them know by Thursday if you were going to take it or not. Okay. So I'm freaking out, right? I'm freaking out. And I'm also practical. I really like as delusional and magical that I am, I do have a practical side, Virgo here after all. And I was like, am I really going to quit my job? Like one, I'm happy here now, right? I've got the position that I wanted to be in. I'm killing it. I'm doing a great job. My boss loves me, like all of these things. I feel good about myself. I built a gym, like everything's good, right? But this is what I wanted. So am I really going to quit my job right now? And so it took me a few days. It took me a few days to make the decision. And what did it for me? And I'm going to like explain the visual that I saw in my head because it was so funny. What did it for me was okay, if I don't take this and I come to work the next day and the person sitting next to me took it, am I going to be mad? That was what I asked myself. And I was like, oh, hell yes, I'm going to be mad. I'm going to be like, damn it, I should have done this. I was like, okay, done. We're taking it. Right. And the moment that I sent the email that I was like, yes, I'm in, the visual I had was like I was on this precipice of a cliff and I was going, boo, and like letting the universe catch me because I didn't have a plan. I didn't have like what's next at this point. You know what I mean? Like I had not even thought about what business I could start or what was next or any of that. I was just in the moment. You know what I mean? So I take it. I take the severance. I knew it was the right decision the moment that I did it. Okay. So fast forward, now I'm out of the job. I've got about 3 months of money. Okay. 3 months of money to figure my life out. Now, one, I'm giddy, right? Because I'm like, I'm free. The scariest part was telling my dad. Anybody who has like, that like daddy daughter relationship can probably understand this. My dad is super practical. And I was really afraid to tell him, but he also, and I got to give him credit. Like he only wants me to be happy. You know what I mean? Like he only wants me to be happy. He's like, I want you to be happy, and also I don't want to fund your life. You know what I mean? So told him he was totally supportive. He was like, that's wild, all of those things. So here we are, 3 months. 3 months of figure it out. How are you going to make money? What are you going to do? Well, so I started looking at like, okay, what kind of business can I start? Like how can I make money? Because I think I always knew that I wanted to work for myself. I just didn't know what that would look like. So, and this is the funny part. And if you've heard this story before, this part of the story I have not told enough. We need this part of the story because I think a lot of people end up here and then make themselves wrong for not knowing what's next, right? So I didn't know what was next. So I'm trying to figure it out. I've always been into fitness, right? Like and spirituality. And so I go, I'm going to start a yoga website, like a yoga blog. And I'm going to like make videos of me doing yoga and then possibly start like a yoga clothing line. I had a name for it, like All Yoga Pro, which I still think is a great name. And I was like, I'm going to do it. Right. And so I start doing this thing. I've still got my life coach. She's helping me out, all the stuff. Right. I start doing this thing. And I don't know what I'm doing. I had no idea what I was doing. But also, and this is going to make you laugh out of your skin. I didn't even do yoga. I didn't even do yoga on a regular basis. Like, I don't know what I was thinking that I'm like, I'm going to start a yoga company. I don't know the first thing about yoga. I know downward dog and child's pose. Like, literally, that was the extent of my knowledge. So, needless to say, it didn't really work. Right. And I was inching up on the end of this 3 months. Money was about to like run out and I was starting to panic. So I'm talking to my life coach about this. And she says to me, Marley, get the money monkey off your back. It doesn't mean that your dream dies. And it was like the perfect words that I needed to hear because everything in me was like, I don't want to work in another corporate job. I don't want to go through that again. All of that. Like, and I was fighting it hard. I was really, really resisting it. And her saying, listen, get something that's going to make you money and keep after the dream. And I was like, okay, okay. It felt good in my body. Well, so what I did then, and I'll say this, I had this belief system because the corporate job that I had before was in retail, like clothing. And I was like, I don't have any other skill sets. I can't do anything else. And she laughed at me. She was like, are you kidding me? And sometimes that's what you need from your coach. You need your coach to just give you a big call out of how ridiculous you're being. Because in my mind, I was like, I don't have any skills besides retail and clothing. And she was like, you cannot be serious right now. Because it wasn't retail that I had skill sets in. It was all the things I did on a day to day basis, planning and all of the, intricacies. I don't have the words for it, but you know what I'm talking about. So anywho, she got my mindset tip top where it needed to be. And it was like, okay, actually, I have a lot of skill sets. Actually, I'm a great employee. Like companies are looking for somebody like me because of what I can do and that I care. Do you know how hard it is? Do you know how hard it is to find quality people? Like companies, when they come across just a quality person, they're like, yes, thank God. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys the practical of what I did because if this is where you're at, this is really, really important. So, practically, what I did, spruced up the resume, right? And then I got on LinkedIn and I started messaging recruiters, local recruiting firms, because my thought was, I don't know what jobs are open out there. I don't want to have to do what is it like what are those job sites called? Like the Yahoo and oh my God. You can tell how long I've been out of this. You know what I'm talking about though, the like where you have to apply in this big, huge thing. And it's like you're just kind of your resume is probably never going to be seen, right? So I didn't want to do that. So I'm messaging on LinkedIn. I got the little upgraded version to where I could like message people more often, messaging all these recruiting firms. And I'm talking to people along the way. It was actually really cool. I ended up having a conversation with a guy who worked for the Carolina Panthers, the football team, because I at the time I lived across the street from the Panthers organization. And I was like, how cool would it be if I worked for the Panthers? Like that would be fun. And I could just walk to work. And so I talked to a guy there. He was awesome. He had this very like mentor vibe to him. He thought it was important to mentor and talk with people. And he told me, he was like, honestly, like looking at your skill set and what you have, he's like, you're overqualified. Like they're not going to pay you enough. Like they're not going to pay you a lot at all because of what the position was there. And I was like, okay, fine. Thank you. Right. Anyway, so recruiters messaging them, things are in motion. Mind you, I'm not panicking. And I think that that's really like a cool thing just to kind of think about. Like I was very clear that there was going to be something and I didn't really need to worry about it. So much so that I went on vacation. I went on vacation. I was like, let's go, pack it up, went to the beach. And these things are the things that I really want to point out because this is not the conventional thing, right? Like the conventional thing is, penny pinch and get logical and work really hard. And that is not what I did at all. What I did was I believed in myself. I got my mindset on board. And then I was doing what I knew to do. But then I went and I had fun because it's like, well, if I am going to get a job, I'm not going to have time for this vacation. Right? So I went on vacation. While I'm on vacation, a recruiter reaches out to me. She had been on maternity leave and she just came back. She had three positions that she thought I'd be perfect for. And so she called me asking about lining up interviews while I'm on vacation. What? Right? So amazing, right? Line it up, end up having the interview. The job that I end up getting is for another corporation. But one, they ended up paying me almost double what I was getting paid before. Okay, thank you, right? And the work environment, the culture was night and day different. So much better to the point where like, do you ever have like situations where you come out of it and you go into another situation and it's almost like you have PTSD? You're like your body is waiting to react to trauma and then it's not there. It was like that. It was just like I couldn't believe that this was so different than the environment I had been in before. And this was really important because I had it in my head, since that was my first corporate job, I had it in my head that all corporate was that way. And this was really eye-opening for me. It was really like, oh, wow, there are great companies out there. Companies that care about their people, companies that care about the environment, that want to do things and move the needle forward and not just work you to death. There were windows. Come on. There were I had a view. I was like, this is like corporate heaven. Like, what is happening here? And they were very big on work-life balance. So you were not staying late. No, you need to go. Traffic is going to get bad. It's 4:30. Go. You need to go. It was so incredibly different that it was blowing my mind. Now, look at this. Okay. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I wasn't ready. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have anything in place. Right. So then I get myself on board with getting a new job, but I'm determined that I'm going to make more money. And I'm also determined that it is going to be better. It's just going to be better. I wasn't expecting to repeat the past. I land this job, getting paid almost double what I was getting paid before, having a beautiful work environment. Now I have work-life balance because, and I didn't mention this, I was working another job before just to make ends meet because what I was getting paid in the past did not cover all of my bills. So I was also working on the weekend at a restaurant serving, working my ass off. So now I've cut my work hours basically in half, but I've doubled my income. Hear me on this. What changed? Did I go out and get a new skill set? Did I like work my ass off? No. What changed was my internal state that allowed me to build myself up, shift my mindset, which aligned me with the level of reality where this existed. Okay. So now I'm working half the hours, getting paid twice as much. My nervous system can relax. And now this allowed me to have the time to really look at, okay, what am I going to do? What do I want to do with my life? Because obviously, this is not the end game. I still want to do something really big. I still want to do something that I feel like matters in the world, but I don't know what that is yet. And so it allowed me that space. It allowed me that calmness to start really exploring what it could look like outside of the job and not yoga, right? So then what happened was I started just like doing things differently. And this is like a really huge part of it. I started doing things differently. I had this epiphany that I didn't have to wait on anybody. Like I could just go do what I wanted to do. So I started traveling by myself, like solo travel. One of the first solo trips I did was to New York City, and it was to a 4-day Tony Robbins immersion by myself, okay? By myself. It was awesome. It was so fun. I met one of my soulmate friends there. We are still friends today and will be forever and ever and ever. But it was this huge like, "Oh, excuse you." So rude when people hang on. Sorry, Instagram. People were trying to call me. So rude. So, started doing things differently, started doing things on my own, and that was creating a huge energy shift in myself. So this is a way that you can kind of leverage your action to create change within. I had come to this point where I was like, I'm not waiting anymore. I'm going to do what I want to do. And so I started traveling to places I wanted to go just by myself. I went to a whole lot of seminars. I started taking a whole lot of courses because I wanted to build like what I knew, build my skill set. Because if I'm going to eventually start helping other people, like I need to be really solid in all the things that I know. And so I started learning more. I was getting all these certifications and things of that nature and just loving all of it because that's just a big part of who I am. Like I hunger to learn and know all the things that around like the subjects that I like. So I was building up my skill set, traveling, doing all the things. And then like the universe does, synchronicities started lining up where this girl that I was working with told me about this other girl that's online, and the girl that she introduced me to was teaching online, just like through Instagram or Facebook, whatever. And I did not know that that existed. Okay. I didn't know that people just taught what they knew online. I didn't know. And so it introduced me to a whole world. And so here I was, I had created all this major change in my life, got my life to such a better place through the things that I had done and learned working on myself, then compounded that with even more learning and understanding, getting these certifications, starting to really build my internal arsenal of like what I can help other people with. And I was like, wait a minute. You mean I could start a business just teaching people what I've learned? Like, it was this huge epiphany, like, really? Because I love this stuff, and I could create a business teaching it? As you can imagine, it changed the game, right? So, again, I did not go, "Okay, let me get out of my corporate job and do this business thing." No, no, I added it in. I added the business into the day, and now I was in a position, though, where because there was work life balance and because the job did not stress me out and I was getting paid enough, I could start to build this business very easily without stress, without scarcity, without any of the things, right? And so what I started doing was the only thing I knew to do, which was show up online and start teaching. So every single day, and all of my OGs are gonna be like, "Car videos," because that's how this whole thing started. Every day I would drive to work, and it was about a 40-minute drive with traffic, And every day there was a bottleneck of traffic where we're just kind of sitting there for a while. So my mentality quite literally was, I'm not doing anything else. Might as well change the world. And I would get my phone out in the bottleneck of traffic while we're just sitting there, and I would teach a powerful lesson of the day. It was just an idea. It's one of those like aligned action came from the ethereal ideas. Like, I'm just going to speak to people every day. And so I started numbering them. Powerful lesson of the day, number one. And I would just give a little like 5-minute tidbit, something that could change your day, some sort of mentality shift, something that you could apply immediately for that day that I had like that had helped me. And so I did this every day. I think I got up to the number 56 is what stands out. I think I got up to 56 every single day, just 5 minutes a day showing up. Well, what I didn't realize at the time was that through doing that, I was building an audience. I was building trust with my community, and I was positioning myself as an expert. That's a strategy that a lot of these business coaches teach. I didn't realize that. I was just doing what I felt called to do. I was like, I don't know how. And I had a friend who was like, but how are you going to make money? And I was like, oh, I have no idea. Like, I have no idea. But when it's time to make money, I'll know. And I was very confident in that. And so I spent about 6 months just showing up, just giving, teaching, and it built my audience. It built loyalty. It built trust. It built my people. So then when it was time to launch something, I hired a coach who is a marketing and business expert. I still talk to her to this day. I still love her so much. And she helped me with the business aspects of things because I didn't know how to build a business, right? I know how to teach, but I didn't know how to build a business. And so she helped me to start to put together the business side of things. And as I started putting together the business side of things, I had an offer idea come to mind. So I put this private coaching offer out there, and I had two people who came and was like, they were scared to death, but they said yes. And so I was officially in business, like, oh my God, I'm doing it. Right. Well, soon after, I wanted to do a group program. So I did a group program. It was Becoming a Conscious Creator, which is still available today because that course is gold. And I had 6 people in that program. And then right after that, I opened up another private coaching. And at this point, my business was just stacking, building because I was showing up every day still. I was still showing up all the time. Like as I'm building this, I was still showing up and teaching and giving what I had to give. So I opened up private coaching. Over the next few months, I had 10 people in my private coaching. Now, I'm going to say this 10 people in private coaching is a lot. Okay. So for anybody out there that's like, I want a coaching business and like, oh my God, I want 10 clients, you might not. It's a lot. Okay. And then in the work environment, I was still in my corporate job doing this. So here you see the seesaw, like adding the business into my everyday, balancing it out. Okay. Here's what's funny. At this corporate job, they started building a gym. I had nothing to do with it. I just the synchronicities and I want to say it like this because if you're anything like me, sometimes you need it twice. You need the same scenario twice to get it. This has happened to me more than once, right? Like I've talked about my 10 years of dating the same guy, like I had to repeat that cycle twice before I broke it. I had to repeat this cycle twice before I got it. Like so sometimes you need the loop. You hear me on that? Sometimes you need the loop because you got to do it differently. It's going to call on you to do it differently. That's a message that has come through over and over and over again. So at my corporate job, they're building a gym. And this job decides they're going to do a reorganization. We're going to move around all of the positions. And I was like, that's interesting. Okay. People are getting laid off. People are losing their jobs. Everyone's freaking out. Okay. And I'm just like, hang on a second. Like, look, it's giving me goosebumps. Hang on a second. Because Here I am again with the potential of losing the job because of things outside of my control. But this time, I've already built the business. Let's go. Now it's still in its baby stages, but I already had income coming in from the business at this point. I already had like a solid ground of like what I'm doing. And I was like, oh my God, is this it? Is this it? So they do these reorgs. They move us entirely, like my team, entirely to a different part of the building. They literally take away our job positions. Like our jobs no longer exist, yet we're coming to work every day. Okay. So here's what's cool about that. Because I didn't have a job, I didn't have work to do, but I'm still coming to work every day while they're figuring their lives out. Right. So every day I'm going to work and I'm building out the sales page for this one of those drop in from the divine ideas for the very first round of the Lightworker Society. So now those of you who are new to my world, you have not seen the program, the Lightworker Society. This was the foundation that my entire everything got built on. It was a beautiful, spiritually infused, like come into your vision, build what you want to build program that focused on spiritual embodiment, getting yourself in that place, which is exactly what I did, and then starting to put it out into the world, which is exactly what I did. Beautiful program. The people who have been through it, like they gush about it because the energy in there is so pure, so good. So I'm building the sales page out for this idea every day at my corporate job because I don't have anything else to do. How perfect. I'm getting paid by another company to build out my business. Okay. All right. So this goes on for a couple weeks. Then they finally get to our department where they're going to reposition us. And the options are you're either going to get fired, let go, demoted, or assigned, like promoted. So fired, demoted, promoted. These are your options. Everybody's got their time slot where they're talking to whoever that's going to tell them what their thing is. And my time slot is with the VP and HR. Now, if that don't tell you something's going to happen, right? Because everybody, not everybody else's, but a lot of the other people's, their time slot was just with their manager. Mine was with the VP and HR. They don't bring HR in unless they're telling you some real, right? And so that morning, on the day when they're doing all these things, that morning, I had, the feels. I had the feels. Like it was just like something's happening. Something is happening today. And I get into, so at the time I lived with roommates in a townhouse, and I get into her car because I had to move it to unblock my car. And on her speedometer, it says, or not speedometer, the mileage, 111199. Now I'm an angel numbers girl, okay? And when I saw that, I was like, that is not on accident. That is a synchronicity. That is a wink from the universe that I just so happen to have to move her car today and her mileage says that. Well, of course I go and look it up, right? Angel number 1111999. And it says your career is changing into a more spiritual path and your purpose. And I was like, right? Like, it's happening. Like, I just knew it. Like, it is happening today. Today is the day I leave my job. So I go, and everyone's freaking out. A lot of people, because typically you don't want to lose your job, right? Like, typically. And I remember this one kid, and I want to say this story because I think that this is the slap in the face that we need sometimes. This one guy, super nice guy, was so afraid of losing his job. And he's like, he's sweating, and he's like, he just had a new baby. He's like, man, I got a baby to feed. Like, I can't lose this job. And I looked at him and I was like, excuse me, are you going to do whatever it takes to feed that baby? And he's like, yeah. I said, then what are you worried about? If you lose this job, you go get another job. That's it. And he was like, yeah, I guess you're right. I was like, yeah. Like, let's remember our power in our own lives. You know what I mean? Like, your job is not determining your life. You are. Okay? So, I wait for my appointment wasn't until noon. So everybody's going in and out. Some people are coming out in tears, some people are coming out excited, all this stuff. I go in. Oh, and I'll say this, on the drive into work, I was all excited, but I was thinking like, "Dang it." Like, I didn't wanna get fired, you know what I mean? Like, even though, like, getting severance and all of that is great, like, I wanted it to be my choice that I left the job. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted it to be my choice. And I was like, "Well, whatever, you can't always have it all, right?" So, I go into my appointment. VP is there, HR is there, and I'm like, and they explained to me that with the reorganization, there is different titles. And the position that they want to offer me is a demotion in title, but I would get paid exactly the same. And I was like, okay. Because I am one, I don't care what you call me, okay? You can call me the garbage person if you're gonna pay me 100 grand a year. Like, I don't care, like, and so I was like, okay. And he goes, and because it is technically a demotion, they are contractually obligated to also offer me paid severance. And it's my choice if I want to take the job or take the severance. And I was just like, holy shit, universe. Right? Like, what? Okay. So then he's like, take the rest of the day off. Think about it's Thursday at this point. He said, take the rest of the week off. Like, take the day off, take tomorrow off, think about it, let us know next week. And he's like, and I just want you to know, like, this isn't bad. Like, nothing bad is happening, right? And I was like, in my mind, I didn't say this. Out loud, I said, thank you. Okay. But in my mind, I said, sir, you are offering me a position to do less work for the same amount of money, or you're gonna pay me to leave. Like, nothing bad is happening here, and you're giving me the rest of the week off. Like, I am gold, sir. Needless to say, I took it, right? Took the severance, went all on my business, launched the Lightworker Society, 7x'd my money with my business. Absolutely insane. And it's been this way building ever since. Okay, so what I really want to point out in all of this, I did not plan or force a company to make a different decision about what my future would be. There were so many variables that were completely out of my control. All I did was focus on me. All I did was build myself every single day. All I did was work towards the thing I knew to do in the direction of what I wanted. I didn't try to force anything into place. I didn't try to make anything happen. We were just talking about this yesterday in the Miracle Matrix. You don't make things happen. Okay? Like, that's not your job. There are so many moving variables that are 100% out of your control. You can't control them all. That's not your job. Your job is you. You work on you and you start putting piece by piece the little things into place that you know to do that are in the direction of what you want. And the universe will take care of the rest in a way that will completely blow your whole ever loving mind, because there's no way that I could have caused that. I got paid twice. How could I make that happen? I can't make that happen. That wasn't even on my radar of a possibility. You know what I mean? So, I hope this story has spoken to you today. I hope that this has helped you with whatever situation that you're currently in, because this is how it all works. We don't control, manipulate, force the world to bend at our will. Okay? We don't have that power. The power that we have is our own internal state, building ourselves into the human that we want to be, taking all the emphasis off of what does the world think I should do. Get to your fuck it point where you're just like, The world can world. I'm going to work on me. I'm going to do what I want to do with my life. And then piece by piece, be open and willing for the pathway to look different than what you think it's going to look like, and build towards what it is that you want to be doing. Any little 1 millimeter move stacks up, and the universe meets you in a 10x form. Click, click. All right, my loves. This was a long one. It was a huge story. When we edit it, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to take it down because I feel like every piece is so vital. But I hope this was helpful for you. Take it, run with it, go manifest your own miracles, make your life the life that you want it to be. It does not have to be hard. It does not have to be sufferable. You're so welcome, Heather. It does not, it can be fun. This is what I'm talking about when I tell you guys, like, play life like the adventure it is. Follow the breadcrumb trail. Like, follow the fun, add the fun in, make it a game, because it really is. It really is. Okay. I love you. We're going to wrap. A reminder, we will not be here Friday. I'm going out of town. So I will see you guys back here on Monday. I hesitate because I think we're coming back Sunday. I will see you guys here next week. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Goodbye, my love.